Hello everybody, Drailer here. We just finished our, language and item group and item model tutorial, and now we're going into blocks. And blocks are a little bit different than items. There's one more step to adding assets to them. Other than that, pretty similar. We're going to create a new blocks class here. Similar to our item class, or items class. I'm just going to copy this, move things around. It's the exact same idea. Instead of register.item, it's register.block or registry. Return a block. Now, in the case of items, because our void crystal doesn't have any special utility or functionality, we can just instantiate item here. There's no need for a special item class or, any other logic. But for our custom block, we are going to want custom logic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blocks package to store my custom blocks in. I'm going to create a void block class. It's going to extend block. Going to add the constructor, which takes in block settings. Just going to rename that. For this, similar idea, public static final block void block equals register void block new void block. Nope, that works. And then block settings are a little bit different than item settings, because item settings, everything's open. Block settings, some of the, I believe, variables inside are protected or private, so you can't change some of them. So Fabric has a Fabric block settings class. So we're just going to do Fabric block settings of the material we want is, let's just do stone, and then we're going to build it. And that's all we need for a block. Of course, just like we did for items, we are going to want to do blocks.init. And two other things we need to do. First off, we need to add a block item, because we can add a block, but that doesn't mean it has an item that you can have in your inventory. So to do this, we're going to have a public static final item void block equals register void block, and then instead of an item, we're going to do a block item, and then we're going to have blocks.void block. Block item takes in the block and in item settings like we had before. So then we're going to do new item settings, echoing void.group. So, add it to the same area we did before. Blocks should be good, it's registered. One other thing I want to show you guys how to do is add custom functionality to a block. So that's not the class I want. Of course, block has a lot of different methods that you can override. A lot. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. For example, let's say I want my block to play a sound when I click it. For clicking, we have activate. Activate is called when you right-click the block. Now, of course, all of the method parameters are mapped weirdly, so I'm just going to change this really quick so it's a little bit cleaner. I usually do this. And the two things we need to think about here are what side we're on and the hand. This guy right here, which is just main hand or offhand, because it's called twice, once for each hand, so sometimes some weird things will happen. Because we're playing a sound, I believe we'd only want to do it client side, so we're going to say if world is client. I'm not sure if you can play sounds on the server. I'm just going to assume you can't. Actually, I think you can, but if world is client basically just means if we're not on the server. And the server can't do things like render stuff. So we have to go out of our way to make sure, we're not on the server when we're, say, rendering an item or adding a model, doing graphic related things that the server just has no idea about. And there's stuff on the wiki about that if you have no idea what a side is. It's kind of an advanced concept that you'll just have to wrap your head around. So we have if world is client, world, play sound. I have no idea which one of these we need, so I'm just going to look through for a sec. Probably the first one, player entity, we need a block position. We're going to pass in our block pause. We need a sound event, probably sound events, and then is there any like end Need something spooky. Something very spooky. Block end gateway spawn. That sounds spooky, not gonna lie. We need a sound category. It's gonna be a block, of course. Doesn't really matter. And I believe the last two are volume and pitch. I'm just gonna assume I can do 0, 0 here. Should be able to run it. While we're waiting, let's just see what those are. Last two. We're never gonna figure it out. It's not possible. As you can see here, this is the error I was talking about in our last episode. Unable to load model just means, hey, I don't have a model for this block. It's going to show up weird. It's going to be purple and black checker pattern. And this is because we don't have a model, we don't have a texture, we don't have a block state, which are things we'll cover in our next tutorial. So if everything worked out, we should have our void block here. Let me turn up my volume. Get rid of the slime making noise. Can't seem to hear anything. Gonna try something really quick. Let's get something really loud so we know it's working. Block anvil destroy. That's probably loud. Oh, and let me pass in 1 to both of these, in case one of those is volume. I'm not familiar with how sound works. Again, I'm mostly just going over how I'd go about building a mod like this. Don't really have a plan here. Just going with the flow, and the flow says it's not going to work the first time. So we're going to relaunch. That is definitely playing. As you can tell, I am clicking on the block, and the anvil nose is playing. Now my guess is end portal spawn. My guess is if we just restart with end portal spawn, it'll work, because one of these was volume. Maybe it won't. There's a lot of stuff here you can do. Sometimes it's fun to just scroll down the list and override random things and see what happens. Get slipperiness. Slipperiness? I have no idea what that does, but it sounds a ton of fun. Of course, some of them, you know, get blast resistance. You can tell what that does. Very spooky. So it seems like one of those was in fact volume. It's actually too loud now. It's very loud. Seems like it doesn't care about my volume. So that's kind of a cool fact. Next video we'll focus on getting rid of this checkerboard pattern here, adding a model, making it look a little bit cooler. Of course, just like the item and the title up here, you'll have to add a translation for your block. I'll let you do that on your own. Block echoing void block that goes into your lang file. See you next tutorial.